Hello, people. So I haven't seen any videos of people doing these non-spoke wheels, aluminum wheels on bikes, these motorized bikes. So I decided to record myself. You hear me opening a box of these wheels I bought off Amazon, thinking they're going to be pretty good. Well, here I struggle getting them out of the box, but boxes showed up terribly damaged, as you can see, and wheels were overall in good condition, but showing you the process of how I installed them and what problems I occurred, stuff you'll see coming down the road. As you can see here, me putting the tire onto the rim, which was a 26-inch rim, no problems with that, just a Walmart tire. Stock tube, which I need to upgrade the tube. The tube is absolute junk. Interestingly enough, what I figured out is that the rubber lining around regular spoked wheels is not on these non-spoked wheels because there's no spokes there to puncture a tire tube. So making that you don't have to worry about that stupid rubber lining like messing up with the inner tube, and a lot less of a headache than having to deal with all the other junk. I do apologize in advance for the really quiet video, or like whenever I'm not talking, it's really quiet. I had some copyrighted music coming on in the background and didn't want to get copyright or however that works. But yeah, who can work on a bike for however long this took and not listen to any music? Like, here was my biggest headache through the entire build, getting these stupid springs, these gears off. I forget what they're called, but taking that off was one of the hardest things this entire build. I had never taken one of these off in my life ever. So the first time I watched at least 5 or 6 YouTube videos trying to learn how to take that off, and me unscrewing that right there, I got some channel locks, just locked the Jesus out of that thing and twisted it as hard as I could. Finally gave out and was able to unscrew it. But here's me getting that little nut back on. I had to hammer it with the hammer, and it's threaded opposite. So like instead of like lefty loosey righty tighty, it's the other way around. And that confused me a lot because I was sitting there tightening it for a long time and I didn't realize. So here I'm trying to use the shaft, the axle shaft that came with the new wheels, thinking they're gonna work, but they're way too long. And here you'll see me change it out in a minute. I'm here sitting here thinking about it, but I ended up actually using the stock ones that came with the bike because they had more threading. Because you can kind of see down there, there's a bearing right in the middle, and there needs to be a nut right as you can see the nut to push the bearing and like kind of like lock it in. That other piece didn't have enough threading to get a nut down into the area and lock it in. So I ended up using the stock axle. So right here, I'm gonna install this bushing that came with the bike and the stock axle. This bushing right there is needed for the spacing from that nut that holds in that bearing so that the frame can squeeze to the axle. So very important piece needed. So here is the sprocket coming on. It is the stock sprocket from the most basic stock motor kit. Now I know this is not proper. I'm just using little two little bolts because I don't have enough. I need to go to make a hardware store run. Very improper. Do not run only 2 bolts in the sprocket. Will fall off. They're not even tightened all the way. I just mocked it up a little bit, make sure it fit, so I can get the right chain tension. That is not proper way to do it. Please do not do that. I am making a hardware store run as soon as possible. I just wanted to get this thing out of the way. It took way too long than it should have taken. So yeah. So here is me putting the wheel back on the bike. Uh, I know there was a couple things that I needed to make sure of. For one, I was having a problem with the wheel wasn't coming far back enough so that both chains were way too loose. And I don't know what it was, and it wasn't the brakes. I ended up removing the brakes anyways, but I couldn't figure it out. I tire was not hitting the frame at all. I'm having a little bit of chain rubbing, but I don't think that's why the tire won't back up anymore. But I ended up figuring out, I just yanked on the sucker. I just yanked on it to where it would come back far enough to get the chain on. And here's, I kind of mocked it up a little bit. Actually, no, I haven't even tightened it up yet. This is just removing the brakes. So because I thought it was the brakes that was messing it up, but it wasn't. So I ended up just scooting it back just a little bit so that I could get just enough tension, and still needs to be adjusted just a little bit. But yeah, I don't know why it won't scoot back anymore. Okay, so this tire, I'm not going to be tightening it up all the way just because I couldn't see how far forward it is. I couldn't scoot it back up anymore. So that was one of the hard parts. On to the next thing. This is the disc brake. I know it's not the best thing, but I'm just going to be running front disc brakes because I can't figure out how to put one on the rear. Too complicated. Just want to get that tire over with. It's all downhill from here. I had a little bit of problems, but most of them were not that hard. So just getting these little bolts off that bracket that came with the disc brakes I ordered on Amazon, and this is me realizing that it's not going to bolt up. I had to get a little bit of grinding with the Dremel to get those holes to line up. And here's me thinking the old hub adapter is gonna screw right on, but hell no, it didn't. So I ended up grinding, which you'll see in a few seconds. I ended up grinding the little holes out, and to where I can actually get a screw right there. I can kind of get a screw right in the middle. It lined up perfectly. I didn't see any problems. All the rotation was flat. No edges were coming up. All the little things were perfect right in the brake caliper. So you'll see that in a minute. Here's the front wheel going on. I know there's a lot more washers and stuff to get on. Hell, I took this wheel off, I think, 4 or 5 more times after I filmed this part because I ended up trying 2 different sizes of washers. There's a little bracket you'll see here in a few minutes where the bracket actually bolts the caliper to that little frame because I didn't have a bracket from the factory to bolt up a caliper. You'll see right here, I'm fixing to unbox it. It's just a little caliper that bolts right into the axle shaft, and you need to widen the little forks a little bit so that little bracket can fit in there and wrap around the fork. And the caliper just literally bolts right up to it. Simple, easy little thing. $10 piece you buy on Amazon. Super easy, simple piece to mock up. Here's the handle, brake handle, and caliper is no, that's the brake line, and the caliper is just it looks cheapy, feels cheapy. Honestly, wish I would have got something better than a $20 caliper, and it came with a set of two. So I'm gonna be putting the other caliper on the front of my other bike. See how that goes. Here's me just mocking it up, thinking how is it gonna fit. It ended up fitting pretty good, but I think I can get something better going here in the future. This is just to make sure it works properly, where I can send it back to Amazon, wait another 30 days. There's it complete, putting the brake line in. I think it looked pretty good. The only hard part was getting that stupid fork to go into the axle shaft. That was the hardest part. Bolts were Chinese bolts, you could easily tell that. But otherwise, I think I need to clean up the brake disc because there's some grease on it. That's why the brakes are terrible. So I need to get some brake cleaner on that and fix it up real quick. Otherwise, I think I should have gave this little brake caliper some more credit. I did not think it would work that well for the price. Hell, I think it was what, 25 bucks? Front and rear, so I can't beat that. Best little thing I've ever bought for this bike. Onto the handles or the brake lever after I just almost dropped the bike. I think people have done this better than I have. The gear shifters over there is really hard to reach, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. So, this little sucker, I spent at least like a minute trying to get that top piece off because I haven't drilled the hole big enough. It's so tight in there. So, enjoy me taking this off for at least a minute. And there it goes flying. Yeah, that sucker went at least 10 feet across the room. Pretty much getting that brake lever off. Pretty simple stuff. Getting the new one back on. Just normal brake lever. Honestly, it feels the same quality as the one that comes with the kit. Pretty junk, but gets the job done. Alright, I'm gonna put a few words in here because lost time at the end. But if y'all have any tips on how to do things like this, let me know. Just starting this is my very first video, or voiceover too at that. Um, I have a few ideas coming, like getting white no spoke rims for my blue bike. You'll see up here. Uh, that's why it's a million pieces. It's a million pieces. Getting disc brakes as well. All the same stuff going in here. Okay, so here's me coming up on the final stretch, putting that throttle handle on. Overall, I think this kit was pretty good, but some little flaws here and there. With the disc brakes, I'll try to leave a link down below where I got those disc brakes from. I think it's a pretty good little deal going on. Overall, the kit, yeah, I said that already, was pretty nice, but here's a little outcome of what it looked like for me. I know chain tension is bad, still needs to be worked on. A few little tweaks here and there, the tire rubs a little bit, but front brakes work great for now. And yeah, here's a little look at the other pile of junk I got. That blue bike is what the next set of tires is going on with the disc brakes and stuff. A little view of that. That red one's a buddy of mine's. This is my 4-stroke build. Took almost 2 years of sitting, doing nothing, but yeah. Let me know what y'all think. If I should keep posting. I have no idea what I'm doing at all, so